Good morning, students. Welcome to our program Aprender e Estudar em Casa. As usual, my name is Edson Horta and I am your teacher for your English classes for the 9th grade. Remember, we are living with a pandemic right now, COVID-19, so it is very important for you to do the 3 basic rules. Use your masks, practice social distancing, and wash your hands. In today's lesson, we are going to learn about question tags. What are question tags and how can we use them? Question tags are short questions that can follow sentences. They usually use an auxiliary verb with have, be, and can as an example, plus a pronoun, I, you, he, she, it, etc. Question tags are used to ask if something is true or ask people to agree with us. Now that we have seen the definition of question tags, how do we use them, and what is their purpose, let's see their rules. The first rule of how do you use question tags is, if the main clause is positive, the question tag is negative. And you have the following example. It's cold, isn't it? Well, students, what you have with this sentence is that the first clause is a statement. It's an affirmation. It is something that you already know. And what you have in the second clause is that you are asking for confirmation of what you already know. That's why the first statement is in the positive and the second statement is in the negative. Now, let's see the second rule. The second rule of the use of question tags is that if the main clause is negative, the question tag is positive. It isn't cold, is it? Students, what you have here is the example of the second rule. And in spite of the fact that it is a different sentence where the main clause is in the negative and the second clause is in the positive, the idea is still the same. You're asking for confirmation of what you already know. Let's continue. There is one exception to the use of question tags. The question tag after I am is usually aren't I. As an example of this weird exception, we have the following sentence. I'm in charge of cooking the food, aren't I? So students, what you have with this rule is the following. We only use the verb to be in the main clause and in the second clause. But remember, if the main clause is in the positive, you use the verb to be in the negative in the second clause. The opposite is valid. If you use the verb to be in the negative in the main clause, of course, the second clause is going to be with the verb to be in the positive. And now we are going to continue. The basic rules of the use of the question tags are as following. With the present simple of the verb to be, you have she's Italian, isn't she? What you have here, students, is the usage of this exception rule. We only use the verb to be. The main clause is she is Italian. The second clause, negative, you also use the verb to be. And don't forget, you're asking for confirmation. Let's continue. The present simple with other verbs. They live in London, don't they? Students, what you have here is a different use of the present simple. In the first clause, you have the verb live. They live in London. This is a statement. And in the second clause, you have the negative. What do you use? We didn't use the verb to be. We used the verb, auxiliary verb to do in the negative. Don't they, to ask for confirmation. Let's see the next rule. Now we're talking about the past simple with the verb to be. It was cold yesterday, wasn't it? Well, students, here we go back to the rule that we saw before. We have the past simple, it is still the verb to be, so we use only the verb to be in the main clause and in the second clause. In this case, the verb to be is was, and in the second clause, it was changed to the negative. Let's continue. He went to the party last night, didn't he? Well, students, what we have here is the use of past simple with other verbs. He went to the party last night. Went is the past simple of the verb go, and it's the main clause, so it's in the positive or affirmative. Now, the second clause, we are asking for confirmation, and once again, we need the auxiliary verb to do in the past. Didn't he? We're asking for confirmation. Don't forget that. And with this, we are going to follow with the next rules. Let's continue. Now we are going to continue with the basic rules, but with a little twist. Now, the main clause is in the negative and the second clause is in the affirmative. We start with the present simple of the verb to be. Again, we aren't late, are we? Well, students, here we still have the same rule. With the verb to be, we continue to using only it. We don't change to another verb. The main clause, we aren't late. We have the verb to be in the negative. We are not, we aren't. And you already know when the main clause is in the negative, the second clause is going to be in the affirmative. We aren't late, are we? Let's continue. Now with the present simple, with other verbs. She doesn't have any children. Does she? Now, students, what we have with the second example is the use of the present simple, but with different verbs. She doesn't have children. Does she? We used a different verb from the verb to be, but the rules are the same. When in the first clause, we have the verbs in the negative, and in the second clause, the verbs change to the positive. Okay? Let's continue. Now we move on to the past simple. She wasn't at home yesterday. Was she? Students, she wasn't at home. This is the verb to be in the past. Was. We joined was plus not, wasn't. So the first clause remains in the negative. Then in the second clause, we are asking for confirmation with the verb in the affirmative. She wasn't at home. Was she? Okay, the past simple of the verb to be. And remember, when we have the verb to be, we only use the verb to be as the main clause or the second clause. Okay, let's continue. The last rule is the past simple with other verbs. They didn't go out last Sunday, did they? Well, students, what we have with this last example is the use of past simple with other verbs. They didn't go out yesterday. What do we have here? We have did plus not, didn't, and the verb go. So the main clause is in the negative, while the second clause, where we are asking for confirmation, is in the positive. Did they? Well, now let's see some practical examples of how to use question tags. In the first example, we have the actor, Will Smith. Will Smith is an American actor, isn't he? Students, what can you see with the first example? We are using the verb to be in the present, and the main clause is in the positive or in the affirmative. Will Smith is an American actor. We know that Will Smith is American and that he is an actor, but we are asking for confirmation from the other person. Isn't he? And because we are asking for confirmation, the confirmation has to be in the negative. Isn't. Let's see the next example. Neymar isn't a Brazilian footballer, is he? Now, students, what we have with the second example? We have Neymar isn't a Brazilian footballer. We have the first clause with the use of the verb in the negative, isn't. And the second clause, where we ask for confirmation, is in the positive or affirmative. Is he? Let's see two more practical examples. Pop Smoke wasn't a rapper, was he? Students, what we have with the first example? What can you tell? What was the difference? Well, here we are using a different verb tense. We are using the past simple. And if you're careful, you can see the first clause is in the past, but in the negative, all right? And the second clause, where we are asking for confirmation of what we already know, is in the positive. Pop Smoke wasn't a rapper. Was he? Let's see the following example. Usain Bolt wasn't a famous Jamaican athlete. Was he? Well, students, what we have here is basically the same. We are using a different verb tense, was not. It's the verb to be in the past, and it's the negative, which makes the first clause to be in the negative. And the confirmation, which is the second clause, is in the positive or affirmative. Usain Bolt wasn't a Jamaican athlete. Was he? Now we are going to continue with exercises to see if you guys really understood today's lesson. Well, students, now it's time for exercise to see if you guys really understood today's lesson. What we have are some sentences that are going to need to be completed with the correct use of question tags. Let's go. The first sentence, read, we are happy, and we have to complete it with the second clause. Second sentence, he is your friend. Once again, complete the second clause. Sam was sick. We have to do the same thing, complete the second clause. She likes hip-hop. What do? Have to complete. Alex went to the zoo. Second clause is missing. Once again, we have to complete it. I'm a very clever student. What do we do here? You guessed it, and it's correct. We have to complete with the second clause. Now, as usual, I'm going to give you guys some time to complete it, and I will see you in a little bit. All right, students, we're back with the correction of your exercises. I'm sure you guys did great. Just remember that we have different sentences, different verbs, and different verb tenses. Let's see how you guys did it. The first sentence reads, "We are happy." And the second clause to be completed was, "Aren't we?" Very good. The second sentence, "He is your friend." And we ask for confirmation using "isn't he?" Very good. Sam was sick. How do we ask for confirmation? Wasn't he? She likes hip hop. Doesn't she? Alex went to the zoo. Let's complete it with didn't he? And the last one, I am a very clever student. Aren't I? And with that, the last sentence is just a quick reminder of the exception rule that we saw before. Well, there you have it, students. We have successfully completed the exercises about question tags. So students, today our topic was question tags. What did we learn today? We learned to identify question tags, their use and their different forms, and that we use question tags to ask for confirmation. As a source for today's lesson, if you guys need to clear out any doubts, you can always consult the sources on the link below. All right, students, so this is a brief summary. Don't forget, with question tags, a positive statement has a negative question tag. You are a parent, aren't you? And with a negative statement, we have a negative question tag. Mary isn't a parent, is she? Well, students, that was our lesson about question tags. I hope you guys understood it. Don't forget, practice it at home, practice it at school with your teachers and with your classmates. All right, students, this was another class with your teacher, Edson Horta, in the program Aprender e Estudar em Casa. So we finish here for today. As usual, remember, wear your masks, practice social distancing, wash your hands, and I will see you guys in our next lesson.